years now, when Starcraft was like 10,000 people on Team Liquid max, and I get told by people now that I don't do anything and haven't done anything. So,
Well, to
like,
be fair, you were only a Team Liquid mod. Like,
to
what
be
you
fair,
guys
they're
actually
correct.
fucking
They're
do.
correct, and they're.
No, but okay, so two things. Okay, first of all, what?
Let's just cancel
Oh
the other
fuck,
topics.
you just fucked my brain, ChanManV. I forgot. Sorry. What were we just talking about? Oh, I saw your beautiful smiling face come back on stream,
We're
and I
back.
just
We're back.
missed everything.
Yep. Come
You,
on, seriously?
you said you're muted.
No, I just unmuted.
Oh, you muted yourself, Chris.
Yeah, I unmuted. So what were you saying?
Oh, there's I completely forgot. I got stage fright. I'm sorry. I'm too shy now.
Alright, so what are we gonna talk about now then?
What were we just talking about?
We were just talking about just it being an issue.
How it
and...
is
Oh,
different.
I'm sorry. I think
It's
there's
more
a big
intense in
difference.
esports.
I think there's a big difference between like the general gaming community and like these individual communities that revolve around games. I feel like these individual communities that spring up are a lot more restrictive and a lot more circle jerky than like general kind of gaming communities, you know? So when you talk about like these communities taking like these decisive stands on like who we're gonna let in or who we're gonna let out, I kind of understand what you mean there, and that is kind of frustrating. In regards to what Tara said earlier about how you feel like you're kind of alienated from the community, like from a fan perspective, or just like looking at our Starcraft or even Team Liquid or whatnot. That being said, this is something that I had to learn the hard way a long time ago, and I know it very well now. That to use the phrase I used earlier again, like people don't exist in vacuums, and you can do. There's a story, right? Okay, are you ready for a story?
Go for it.
Ready for a story.
A guy walks into a bar. I'm trying to remember the joke. I'm gonna mess this up, but a guy walks into a bar.
God.
A guy walks into a bar. He sits down, okay, and he asks for a drink from the bartender, and he goes, "I fucking hate my life," okay. And the guy's like, "What's wrong?" And the guy's like, "I've constructed, 100 houses, and nobody calls me like an architect, right?" And he's like, "Okay, and so?" And the guy's like, "Well, I've also built like 1,000 bridges, and nobody calls me a bridge builder, right?" And they're like, "Okay," and the guy's like, "I fuck one goat." And then ... So everybody calls him, right? Do you understand the end of the joke?
Yes, got it.
Everybody calls him goat fucker,
Yes.
right? Regardless of everything else, he's done, right? So that aspect of like people isn't fair. It's not really right. It's not mature. It's not, like healthy, but it's like an undeniable fact that you have to live with, you have to accept it, and you have to figure out a way to work around it, or else you will die so hard in any industry having to do with you being in the public eye,
Yeah, and to go along with that, like Husky, who's probably with Totalbiscuit the number 1, number 2 YouTube Starcraft commentator, got incredible amounts of hate from everybody on Team Liquid when he first showed up, and he literally just ignored it for, I don't know, like 2 years, like a stupid amount of time, not addressing the hate, until eventually everyone was just like, "Oh, okay." And like you just couldn't hit him anymore because his numbers were too big and too many people liked him because he just blew straight through it over time and found his. That
was a really weird situation because everyone hated him like for no reason, other than he was casual.
I think there was reasoning.
Yeah, it was the same reason that people
casual.
hate on Totalbiscuit because he's not a really high player, so he can't cast blah blah blah.
So exactly, and it was the same with Diggity and Moletrap and Doa and all those guys.
So kind of anyone
Yeah, I
getting in
think
the
anyone-
scene outside of playing skill.
Like I still joke with old Team Liquid Brood War elitists. Like if you had told us in like 2006 that Doa and Moletrap were gonna cast Pro League before Tasteless and Artosis, we would have killed somebody, right? Like that's insane that happened, right? But they made it work. So they could have just got upset and quit or felt bad about themselves, which I think they sometimes did, but they just got through it. So
Yeah, that's definitely something I try to highlight in my video. Just like for the women at the end of the suggestions that I give and stuff, I tell them to just like don't dignify it with an emotional response. Just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually, if you stick around long enough, people will start actually seeing that you're legitimate and you actually have passion for it. But at the same time, you say that like with women in general, as you guys said, during the break, like it's the same everywhere. With esports, I have not felt like a community of people could actually, like if they decided to, literally alienate me so much that I actually can't be a part of it since like middle school. It's like,
yeah, but that's not a
esports
gender
is such a small constrained like
Uh-huh.
thing. But I feel like it's not necessarily a gender thing, and I'm not like at all trying to peddle the like old sexism, everyone's being sexist, misogynistic.
Sure.
I don't do that at all. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of women are just like immediately getting either like, oh, they're a church girl, or oh, they're like an attention whore, like stamped on them. And the community is so small that the amount of people there, it actually sticks and does not go away. And that's what kind of worries me about other women trying to get into the scene, because women do get more than other demographics in esports, it seems. Not that they don't get a huge benefit from being a girl, as I've said before, in the marketing and all of that, and people just being generally interested without any kind of skill.
But do they get more
But
hate?
that's the one thing that worries me.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
This is something that's really hard to believe. Not really hard to believe, but I think you would be. I think most people would be shocked if they saw the amount of hate that different public figures got. I'm not trying to say that women don't get their own kind of hate in a different way. They definitely do. But like I would be willing to bet money that I've probably gotten worse messages than like 90% of the women involved.
I'd probably agree with
I mean,
that.
like I remember sharing one message, just one message out of many with ChanManV on stream, with some guy writing like this detailed rape fantasy of like my 2-year-old son.
God,
Like,
seriously.
and it was like,
oh my God.
it was
was
like
terrible.
disturbing.
It was
Like,
really bad.
It was right, like graphic as fuck. It was like, holy
It's really
shit.
bad.
Like,
All right, TB wants on. I'm on TV.
oh god.
This is just a great.
Have you had anybody try and have an altercation with you at an event yet?
Fuck no, I got too many fans, man. I would just sick them. I'm like,
I've had 2.
really?
Yeah, people that shouldn't even know who
Holy
I
shit,
am, and I've
really?
had 2.
Dude, I'm getting my
What did
CCW
they
before I go
do?
to the next event.
Huh?
Fuck that shit.
What do they do?
What happened?
One guy at an MLG try and start a fight like near the open bracket. I thought it was a joke, but
Is he like banned him or whatever?
Fight at MLG? What the? Yeah.
Yo, real
What's
talk,
up?
if I was gonna go to an MLG and try to beat up somebody, which I plan to do when I get swole as fuck, it's gonna be that Manifesto guy, 'cause fuck him. I hate him. He's the worst CL moderator in the history. I'm going on record right now saying that you can't silence me. Fuck Manifesto. Alright, I'm
All
done.
right, what's up, John?
Not too much. The usual shit.
You got camera now.
Yeah, it's too dark in here.
Okay, that's fine. That's no big deal.
Can't be asked.
So, what you been thinking about our discussion so far? You've been here pretty much the entire time, I believe.
I think he's married to a girl, aren't you?
Last I checked, yeah.
Oh,
Funnily enough,
God.
doesn't really help on the whole insight thing. You know, it's really interesting that this discussion's coming up right now, because I don't know how much attention the rest of you have been paying to, like, the gaming scene in general outside of esports, but there's been a massive amount of press and publicity over the last few days surrounding negativity in gaming in general. And it's pretty much all been because of this guy called Phil Fish, right?
Yeah.
Made a game called
shit.
made a game called Fez. Fairly outspoken character, let's just put it that way. And he gets called out in a video by a journalist called Marcus Beer, and basically it's a massive fucking bust up. And he quits the gaming development scene entirely. Like, he just leaves the industry right then and there.
Wow.
And as a direct result, there's been a huge amount of stuff from various sites on, hey, how hateful is gaming as a scene in general, and how ridiculous is this? You know, and let's just say Phil Fish is not exactly an attractive streamer by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
You know, so I think it's kind of a wider issue, really, when it comes down to who gets hate. Destiny was just mentioned that, and yeah, you do get those kind of emails. You get people that get super creepy, and then there's like the people that go one stage further than that, who will create 30 different email accounts just to send you different messages, who will do their very best to get around every filter and block that you've got, and who are just like out to upset you, who are just trying to find a button to push.
And it's not even like, and like even the step further from that is, because I've seen it written about YouTube, and I know, and I've seen people do it to me. The people that will go online and they know enough about you such that they can put like a 10-paragraph essay together, like every failure you've had in life, and then like post and be like, how do you respond to this? I got you now, motherfucker. It's like, Jesus fuck, dude. Like, holy shit.
What do
you even?
It's like the script kiddie version of doxing, really.
Yeah.
It's like, I went on Google and I found some forum posts you made, so I know everything about your life.
And like, what am I supposed to say to like this random anonymous dipshit who has like an account with like negative 400 carbon? All he does is tell, like, Jesus Christ, like people.
Oh, I mean, you see that? I don't know if any of you saw that guy on our Starcraft. And Kennigit, you may have noticed. Obviously, you're not a mod anymore, but you might have heard that he got, I think, permabanned from Team Liquid for some shit he said about me. He then goes on our Starcraft and posts the fucking vilest shit he can possibly come up with. Except he's a really bad speller. So every time I just imagine this idiot trying, it's like, what would be the most hateful thing that I can come up with? And he's desperately trying to summon it from his core, and he's just not getting it there. But, you know, it's just like, I will rape your child, I will do this, that, and the other. And it's just like he's posting this over and over and over again. And he even created another account to go and do the same thing. And it was blatantly him because nobody writes that stupid.
Yeah.
And yet he was able to do that. It's just, there are people like that. They will occur. They will happen, and unfortunately, if you happen to be female in this industry, then that's an angle of attack for them, as far as they're concerned. You know, that's because they're fucked in the head, but it is an angle of attack, and they will use that in order to try and get at you. Because, I mean, actually, probably because they're not very good at it. They're actually really, really lazy when it comes to the whole trolling thing. It's like, woman, right? Let me look through my Babby's First Trolling book. Let's see what kind of insults I can pick out of that. And I don't know.
It sucks too because
again, real fast to go back to, especially now that TV's in Korea, like it's not something that's unique to gaming. Like in Korea, this shit is so bad that people literally kill themselves over anti-fans.
Yeah, I mean, there's legislation to stop that shit because it's that bad. You know, people talk shit about Jessica a lot, and I'll happily talk.
And not
shit
even
about Jessica,
not even just gaming. Like it has to do with their celebrities too. Like holy, they have like a culture of people dedicated to like trying to get people to kill themselves. Like jeez.
Yep, pretty much. You know, it's a thing. You know, people have said, hey, you know, Jessica's crazy or whatever, and I'll definitely attest to that. I think she tried to sue me on 2 separate occasions. Which,
yeah, she's nuts.
Yeah, that was fun, but I kind of sympathize because I'm like, look at the shit I get on a daily basis. Now consider that there are people that basically do that professionally in Korea, and the scene is 10 times worse. Yeah, she probably would be a little bit crazy after all of that. I can understand.
You have to become like it to operate in a forum as public as this. You have to become almost like sociopathic towards like the things people say to you. And again, like it's really hard because, and I try not to gender stereotype, but like I see a lot of girls who will make the posts on Reddit like we get a lot of hate, like people call me a bitch or a cunt, and they send me these horrible messages, and it's like I get. And not to discredit anything or not to play like the pity parade or whatever, like to try to one up each other, but fuck, dude, like. There's a lot of hate that every public figure gets. Like you could probably make an esports show where you get together like In Control, me, I'm sure Totalbiscuit, definitely like Husky, HD Starcraft, JP. Yeah, you could get all this together, and I'm sure like we could just like every day like over like our top 10 like worst fucking emails of people like dissecting your life and telling you like these horrible things that they want to do to you or would do. Like holy shit.
So I mean, what do you see? The crazy thing is that. All that hate that you guys get, and you guys still read everything. I know you guys read everything every day. Like, how do you guys do that?
A gigantic superiority complex. That usually helps a lot. It's like, I think you can read an email. I've got to the point, I think, where I can read an email like that and just say, I am so much better than you. Holy shit. Like, and I'm not even good at video games. I don't have any appreciable talents, and I'm still a better human being than you'll ever be. This is amazing.
So this is the one aspect of my life that I'm pretty sure I'm better than Totalbiscuit at, is that Totalbiscuit engages way too.
That's totally true.
Oh yeah.
There's like I'm like up in my I picture myself being like up in the castle commanding my armies, and like I see you go onto the battlefield with your sword and shield. Like
the king's out there.
Like between some of the comments I see on your Twitter and on our Starcraft. Holy shit. What? Wait. So I don't know if this is a hot topic or not, or I'm not entirely sure what happened, but. Didn't you get into a quarrel on, was it the Warhammer subreddit over something?
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious.
What happened? I didn't...
let's just say the moderator had a meltdown. There was a thread about the roleplay that we did with JP for Dark Heresy, and the moderator posted some bullshit, and basically he claimed, I hate Totalbiscuit because at some point in the past, and my roommate can verify this, you can tell he's really getting serious. He claimed that Space Marines were a rip-off of Halo. I'm like, what? So I called him out on this shit. He had a massive meltdown, banned about 600 people, and kept posting, "This is not about Warhammer. You cannot post this here." And the thread's a graveyard. It's all deleted posts and about 6 instances of him saying, "You cannot say this on this subreddit." It was quite comical, really.
Wow. Okay.
Is he still a mod?
Yes.
He's still a mod?
He's still there, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the other moderators is like, yeah, occasionally he can do some silly things, but we feel that he's an important part of our community. It's like, well, that would be why your community's fucking tiny.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you have more subs on your YouTube than the Warhammer subreddit has. Like, am I wrong on that? Or?
I crush it. You kidding me? It's got like 20k subs.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like
So my personal subreddit is a third of the size of the entire Warhammer subreddit.
Yeah,
okay,
mine's
so that's
about my personal's about half of that. I think it's
okay.
Yeah, it's not. It's just silly. It's egos all the time, I guess.
Yeah, hate is unfortunately never gonna go away.
As much as we wish it would. We gave people an outlet. And a point that was made earlier in the show, I think, is like the most important thing, is that social media let us put people that would otherwise be in protected positions in front of an audience that had immediate, unfiltered access to them.
Yep.
And
Correct, yeah.
It's in your best interest to interact with them to some degree because it helps build your brand, and it's really important to do that. And there are some people that exploit it horribly by basically pretending to be the friends of everybody because, and it helps them get super successful, but it in turn creates really creepy, scary stalker people. And it's generally not a good idea to do that. But I don't even know how to get around that. The only way you can do it is to do what real celebrities do, which is have a fucking marketing guy. Yeah, exactly. They read their shit. They don't read their own Twitter. Come on, they don't make their own posts.
Right. So how far are you from that? How far are you from hiring somebody to read your Twitter for you?
I had someone that read my YouTube comments for me for a while.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
What would they do? What would you instruct them to do?
Find useful feedback.
Oh, okay.
Because, fuck knows, I
There
can't
was
be asked
none,
to do that.
so he fired the guy.
Yeah, it's like, it turns out that just a good idea.
Useful feedback on YouTube? Holy shit.
Yeah, it's like, well, what's your job performance rating at? How many useful comments did you find? Well, yeah, I didn't do much, but I think
Went
I might
dumpster
be losing
diving
my
yesterday.
mind.
I couldn't find like the golden bars, It's like,
Dig through mountains of shit to find that one shiny penny.
It's funny.
You know
it's
that
funny.
Twitter account, Avoid Comments? It's don't read the comments? And it
Yeah.
regularly tweets out a message reminding you why you shouldn't read
Yep.
comments.
It's automated now as well. They have like 200 different reasons why you shouldn't read comments, and it just loops all year now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So TV, what do you think? Go ahead, Tara.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so I think the point I was trying to make is not that like girls are the only people who get hate, because I definitely think Destiny gets a lot more like passionate hate than like I do or any girl in gaming. But I think the thing that makes people hate someone like Destiny is also the thing that makes half the people really love him. And I feel like it's much harder for women to get past the inherent just like, you're a woman, you are just boobs, you are useless, you're an attention whore, and that thing that will never go away. There isn't like a side, like, there are people who like the way girls look, obviously, and they want to look at girls, and they're more passive about not minding that. But at the same time, I feel like women's actual content and their actual substance is very overlooked rather than the point of their getting hate. Because obviously someone who's more controversial is going to get a lot more hate than someone who's just more timid and just goes with the flow and stuff like that and is quiet on their stream. But I really feel like there's no real way for a woman to just kind of shine in that way easily and just kind of get out of that rut of like having people only hate them. And I think that's something like it's not as like
It feels like I understand that I think that there's a positive and a negative. There's an asset and a liability side to it. And it's easy to see the liability side to being a woman in esports, but I think it might be harder to see the fact that it's an asset. Like, and again, this is going to sound really mean, but look at somebody like Miss Bite or like Kaitlyn and think if they weren't a female, if they were just another guy, would they have the same fan base that they have today?
Right.
That's a really hard question to ask, and it's really hard to accurately assess that, because to quantify that is impossible. It really is. You'd have to poll every single person and hope to get an honest response. Did you initially start watching me because I'm a woman? You know, like, it would be hard to even get honesty out of everybody. So I think that it's really hard to see the asset side of it, in my opinion.
I think that there's a default position, if you happen to be female entering some kind of gaming media of any description, that you start with like both a leg up and a disadvantage. So you immediately get this kind of burst of attention because females in gaming media in any form are reasonably rare. Yeah, rarer than males, there's no question about that. So you get that initial boost of interest. But unfortunately, you also immediately get this bar that's set a bit higher that is simply a case of, well, you're a woman, ergo you're getting in for whatever perceived reason that I happen to have, and I'm going to project my own prejudices upon you. And Tara's point is trying to get past that stage, and I don't think you'll ever get past that stage, but you will at one point get enough people interested in you that it outweighs all of that hate. And I don't think hate necessarily grows at the same pace as your fan base does if you're doing things in the right way. Getting rid of the hate entirely is unfortunately at this point not going to happen. It doesn't happen for anybody, and it happens for females in a different way. And you garner hate because you are female, which is unfortunate.
So I have a question for you, TB. So like someone like Felicia Day, I never associate like she's a pretty girl, but I never associate anything sexual with her. The way she brands her markets herself.
Then I think you would be a fairly rare asset to this.
Oh, really? Okay. Listen,
there is a huge amount of that.
This is going to be my question, though, to you. Was that, do you think she still gets... do you think that's ever changed for her? Do you think it's stayed completely consistent, the ratio of guys that are in her YouTube comments that have become fans just for her content? Because she's been doing it for much longer than
she's been doing it for a long time.
That's also a totally different industry. Like, she got famous.
I think there's a bit of crossover. I mean, she's not actually well known for her acting. Let's be frank. She's been in some fairly famous stuff, relatively speaking, but she's not really known for that. She is kind of known as something of a kind of geek idol, I guess.
Right.
And I think that she has gotten to the point where the ratio is definitely in her favor, and I think that's the ratio that everyone has to aspire to when they're trying to make any kind of content on the internet whatsoever. And unfortunately, with females, there is an increased, I think, animosity from a certain group of people as to whether or not. I suppose the question is whether or not those people, if you happen to be male, would be hating you for a different reason. Are they just generally hateful people, or are they actually misogynist? Is the question there? It's hard, and you're hardly going to get any information from surveying them, are you? So,
yeah. One thing we didn't talk. We were just talking again generally about hate. Is Sheth, like, we haven't even talked to you about, like, you've gotten hate too for just.
Yeah, how the fuck does that happen? Can someone explain that to me?
This is like one of the nicest guys in esports, and he gets hate too for in the past your way, right?
Yeah, I just kind of luck out with it, but yeah, I've had a bunch of stuff. Like, a lot of people have like just posts on a little stream chat that I'm dead one time. My mom freaked out thinking I was actually dead watching that.
Oh, and then yesterday
for that.
Yeah, I get
a fairly good job of it.
Yeah, and then just tons of, in general stuff. Like, there are a bunch of just negative karma accounts that in general want to be negative, but I don't know. I'm not actually that nice of a guy.
There are these buckets of people. There are like 400 or 500 people.
Yeah,
there are like 400 or 500 people in each of these buckets that go around like hating people for whatever bucket they belong in. Like, you've got like a bunch of people that you've got like the anti-Scarlet transgender group that anytime anything is posted about Scarlet will jump on and be like, she's not a real girl, blah blah blah. You've got like the anti-female group that will jump on whenever like a girl posts something like, well, look, it's just another Kelly Milkies, blah blah blah, or like jump on. You've got the this guy doesn't have any results anymore group, so people like Sheth are vulnerable to like, Sheth hasn't played in a while, fuck him, or Huck hasn't gotten anything good, fuck him, or Idra, there are like all these buckets of like haters that kind of revolve around and hop from issue to issue. And I think kind of like what Totalbiscuit is saying, you just kind of hope to grow your fan base such that it outweighs that bucket of haters that kind of roll around.
Pretty much,
So that
exactly what it is.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
that they kind of outshine or outvoice the random haters that go from thread to thread.
And
It seems like their entire existence just revolves around, like, they're just like antsy, like in their college or high school class, like, I can't wait to get home and shitpost on how much I hate Sheth, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, these people pretty clearly have problems, but I think the bigger concern after all of that is whether or not you can focus so much on your positive feedback that you're able to kind of completely overwhelm that. I'll be entirely frank, I can't, and I never have been able to. And I think I developed a fucking massive ego to kind of deal with it, and that was my way of coping, which is clearly suboptimal. And then there are some people that can detach themselves entirely from that, and I don't necessarily think that's a common quality, but I think it's something that you need to strive towards. If you can achieve that, then that's the fucking perfect Zen state for you.
Well, it's just a natural thing not to take in compliments as much as criticism, right?
That's actually true. There is a psychological something,
it's...
I don't even know, but I read something on an internet once about it.
Okay.
I like the thing that I heard. I was watching the Real Talk with Too Good, and he was talking about how like casters, like every caster is supposedly bad, and everyone just says every caster is bad, and they just say that. So people who should keep casting are the people who just enjoy it and just never stop doing it if you enjoy it. And there's going to be someone out there that actually appreciates your content and stuff like that, and you just have to kind of do it for you. But at the same time, that's kind of difficult to do if you're actually feeling like you're being shunned out of the community, or if there's like no possible way for you to ever get past that one downfall that you have or something like that, especially if it's inherent in just the way you look or your gender or even just, like who you are as a person in terms of opinions and shit.
That's a really good point.
There's so many examples in esports where this hasn't been the case, right? Like, I mean, we went over a few of them with like Moltrap and Doa and Husky and that, and I mean, there's dozens more of people.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I still think that they pay attention to feedback. They just like maybe aren't as vocal about it. I wish I could remember. I know HD Starcraft made posts, but like, aren't there always posts? There used to be posts that would come up like how like I think Doa sucks as a caster, Moltrap sucks as a caster, and these are and then people make like the feedback or criticisms, and then Doa or Moltrap will read it, and they actually have incorporated. They actually like have incorporated that kind of stuff into their thing. Or into whatever they do. If it's casting, it's casting. If it's playing or whatever, being a personality.
The problem is as to whether or not the feedback is actually constructive, because
definitely.
Bullshit.
But one of the things that I think a lot of people who get really high up, maybe like Totalbiscuit, not to accuse you specifically of it, but I know like for sure like Tasteless, like when you get really high up, it's really easy to say, well, fuck all the feedback and the haters, I'm going to do what I want. That's a lot easier to do on a 5,000 viewer stream or a 300,000 sub YouTube channel than it is on like a 50 viewer stream or like a 90 viewer stream or like a 15 subscriber channel, Like, even though
that's a pretty good point.
Like Tasteless went on that Real Talk, and Tasteless pretty much said, fuck all the fans. Not fuck the fans, but I don't read fan feedback on forums everywhere because everybody's fucking retarded, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's pretty much exactly what he said. But Tasteless can do that because Tasteless has fucking made it, Like, Tasteless is already, like, living in Korea, part of our Tasteosis team or whatever. Like, he's fucking there. Like, you have to be careful when you're starting out, or even if you're, like, of mediocre popularity. Like, maybe you've got, like, 100 to 500 viewer stream, or even, like, somewhere around there. Like, you're not necessarily in a position yet such that you've solidified what you're doing, and it's going to become popular, and you can go fuck the feedback. Like, you still have to kind of be aware of, like, what people are saying about you, or maybe there is some legitimate criticism, or,
Yeah, and I can imagine, that's a pretty damn difficult thing to do, to try and separate those two things. Unfortunately, some people will give reasonable feedback, at least they think it's reasonable, and then it'll be laced with personal insults or whatever. And it's like, well, can I pick through this? Should I discard it entirely? I don't know.
And that's probably really, really difficult for women, because not to be like I'll just say it for myself. If I'm gonna look at a woman's stream, like off the sidebar, like it's just gonna be to see how good she is, like versus. Like I'll just be like, oh, how pretty is she, and then how good, and then just compare the skill and be like, oh, it's a good combination. Like that's just what I think a lot of people do, and because of that, the comments you're gonna get are gonna be like based off both things, and like you can't really make yourself prettier. You can play better. I mean, I guess you can make yourself prettier too, right? With a bunch of different things, but the point being that it's so much easier to have horrible feedback on how you look And if we look at like, oh, you played really bad that game, you don't really play this that well, it doesn't hurt as much, I guess, for whatever reason, as like
it's more personal. Yeah.
You're just really ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, like,
it's very personal.
really
There's like there's also
examples
examples of even if there are a lot of people saying something that might be wrong, you still have to consider it. And this is something that I've seen Totalbiscuit wrestle with personally, and it's something that I had to deal with personally. When you come to things like words, you know. So obviously, like I had my whole racism spiel. I know that Totalbiscuit in the past had a whole issue with the faggot word. Like
I said that once, and now I have Tumblr hating me forever.
Definitely. So even though you've got like I have like millions of not millions but like tens of thousands of people wasn't like, oh, Destiny's racist, blah blah blah, and like my only employee is Asian, you know, like I'm friends with black, everybody says it, you know, but like I know I'm not racist. Like it's arguing like words. But if you've got like that many people saying something, even if it's not good feedback per se, it's something you have to address, you know. So like for me personally, like even though I still have strong feelings about that kind of stuff, I don't talk about it anymore because it's not worth the time.
It really
it's just
isn't.
not like cause it's just not the enemies that you'll make, the amount of people that will fuck with you, like all of that shit. And I'd be surprised if, like, I'm sure you feel the same way, right? Like you're never gonna go onto a forum and try to argue whether or not you should or shouldn't be able to use a word as an insult, right? TV.
I can't be asked anymore. It's not.
Yeah,
it's
just
not
not even
worth it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, not being worth it is a kind of a good point too. It's, you know, we were talking about having somebody else look at all your feedback for you. I mean, I feel like all of you guys should probably end up doing that. And
for me personally, I don't like that because I don't want to be dick rode by a guy that I pay, like, hey, like I'm gonna pay you $100 a month.
No, I mean, you hire the right person. I mean, of course you're gonna hire a person.
That's pretty difficult though, because I've got a guy who does my research, you know, for me for various different shows, and even then, like after working together for like 2 years, we still have differing opinions on what's interesting. Yeah, and I still have to pretty much kind of guide him in the right direction. And when it came down to feedback, like he values different things to me, and that's really never going to change. It's going to be, you know, finding the right sort of personal assistant, I suppose, is a pretty damn difficult task.
Yeah, I could see that. It's just all this energy that you guys put into it. You know, you guys do great stuff otherwise. So if the energy was going to more productive things, it'd be so much better. But
so I want to ask all of you guys, like, how much of you guys actually like tailored back your personalities or changed something about yourself in the public eye so that it's just like you're saving time that you would be wasting on just like making someone mad by having something that could appear racist, you know, as an opinion or something like that? Like, how much have you guys changed compared to when you guys started out and you're like, okay, I'm going to be myself on TV, you know, that type of thing, to now where you have like this, you've blown up, you have this persona, and you actually have to make things streamlined? How much have you guys changed?
Not much, really, to be honest. I think the incident that Destiny mentioned there was probably the only really big one. The other blow up for me was and this image gets posted all over the place, where I had this whole I don't take requests thing, which blew up into a major thing on r/gaming.
Because you could be replaced with another fan. I remember that.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it wasn't wrong.
That is awesome, though.
But you know,
in the trenches.
Yeah, I don't think, and I still haven't changed that, because like honestly, it's kind of who I am, and it's kind of who actually people started to follow to begin with. They expected that kind of stuff, so changing that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. Personally, I've barely changed a thing, really. I think maybe I read and respond to slightly less of that stuff. And maybe I think a little more before I post something, because apparently everything could be taken out of context in a really big way. And that's maybe the biggest risk, but no, not really.
It's kind of different for you, TV, because your brand is kind of built on your cynicism.
I'm a fucking dick. And everybody knows
you're paid to be a dick,
and that's not going to change.
Yeah,
but if I was
to give you the opposite side of this, I delete about 2/3 of my tweets before I hit post. I delete about half of my Team Liquid and Reddit comments.
Wow.
And on threads like WCS and TI3, I sit with like my hands in my mouth and just walk away and walk outside for an hour or two, because that.
And what makes you do that? Like.
Huh? Having a
what
job.
makes you do that?
Having a job.
Having a job is what makes me do that. Because I'm quite opinionated to begin with. and people, I mean, even on very mundane stuff, people take my words out of context. And I found it.
So if you were like solely living off of your own personality, like let's say Totalbiscuit, you're living off of like a YouTube channel and stuff, and it's all about your own personality, you don't think you would be that way?
I'd be less that way. I'm certainly more that way because of the stakes, and because of I represent more than myself on these projects.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's it's your paycheck that actually matters, and staying employed is kind of important.
Yeah.
I mean,
for the most part. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Kennigit, if he wasn't working for TL or ESL, he'd be seeing a lot.
No, listen. What I said was, before I came to ESL, I basically was asking around leagues and seeing what was available, and I said to a few people, listen, if there's no job opportunity, I'm just gonna go like ham and just start blasting everybody, and just comment and be a narcissist.
I'm really disappointed that didn't happen.
He's made some videos. He's made some videos.
Serious thought into it.
I just want you to know, guys, I'm unemployed. Prepare for the ensuing shit.
It's a poison pill, man.
And then I got hired at ESL. So
I had this really bad manager that worked with the casino. She worked in food and beverage. Really shitty manager. She was pretty bad at her job. She was really lazy. And I'd always wondered for the longest time, like what. And it actually got to the point where I asked her one day. I was like, "Why do you still work here? Like it seems like you don't enjoy the job." And she's like this 60-year-old woman, and I wish I could remember exactly, but it was something like, honey, like I know so much shit about everybody here that nobody would even think about firing me, you know? Kind of like that thing.
Yeah.
Because there would be like 5 or 10 people getting fired with it, you know?
I know certain people in esports like that. But
to go back to Tara's question in terms of changing, there's really not much you have to change about your personality. Like I haven't changed much at all. There's just like you just have to identify there are certain hot topics that you always stay away from because there's no winning. Yeah, there's no winning anything when it comes to arguing or discussing because people get topics that people get incredibly emotionally invested in are things that you like never want to take upon yourself because it's not worth the damage to your reputation to try to wade through that sea of shit, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't even matter if you're right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter who argues better. It doesn't matter who's making good points. It's just like if you do, like to go back to the racism thing, like if you argue in favor of any kind of things like that, like I'm a racist, horrible fucking person. Like Totalbiscuit is a homophobic gay hater. It's just not even worth that because people will take that stuff and they will go external to esports and start spamming it to sponsors and all that shit. And it's like, why? Like, was winning that argument on whether or not you should use that word worth the shitstorm that you have to deal with? Because like now the 14-year-old like Tumblr and Action community decided to take it upon themselves to save the world. Like one cuss word at a time. Like it's just not worth it. You know.
Yeah, ironically using far more cuss words of their own, but that's okay because they weren't homophobic. It's fine.
Yeah, for me it's pretty much the same thing. Just certain words I won't use that I would have used before, like gay and retard, are probably the two biggest things. Like gay never had any sort of homophobic meaning to me, just like lame, but now I won't touch that word.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times I want to like say how badly a tournament or a company is doing, like James's said he could, right? And I just won't type that. I'll just type it out and then delete it or something.
And that helps.
That's how it is, exactly. All right, guys. Well, I was gonna.
You should make an alternate account where you start posting everything that you're saying.
Insider.
But obviously, no, everybody would downvote it because nobody would believe it. And then, like, whenever somebody threatens to fire you, just link that account and say, like, hey, like, dude, if you fire me, I'm going public that this is my account. You know.
James, that account is called AdaBC. Just.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I think AdaBC already has that account on Reddit.
Oh man. Well, guys, I wanted to talk about other topics, but we definitely
let's just keep talking about this nonsense.
I know.
Next week we're gonna do League of Legends versus Starcraft.
Oh God.
Which is
That's
better.
like a whole other episode, man.
Which is the better game.
So we have Totalbiscuit, who thinks that League of Legends is a diarrhea of color, I think was the term.
Wasn't it a vomitorium? I think I used.
Vomitorium? I didn't even know that was a word.
It's one of those colorfully descriptive.
Vomitorium. Wow.
So many fucking colors.
That's true. That is true.
So we have Totalbiscuit, who hates multicolored, but I mean, being European, that's not really surprising. That was a racist joke. Fuck all of you.
All right. Actually, there's one thing I did want to mention, like, and then we'll wrap. Actually, so the news of WCS America's venue having a fire last night. I mean, is WCS America cursed or what?
I'm not saying it was awesome, but it could have been.
It's arson
James,
by the
what would your alt
esports
Twitter
guy.
account have to say about this?
Huh? My alt Twitter account?
Yeah, what would it say?
I mean, WCS America doesn't affect me that much. The only thing it affects me on is those 2 Chinese players. Because a lot of people don't realize, but when you're Chinese, you can't apply for 2 visas at once.
Right.
So even if they get their American visa, if they go top 5 at North America, we're going to have a hell of a time getting them to Germany.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, that sounds nightmarish.
Maybe Blizzard's realized it's all gone so fucked up. Somebody needs to do some digging around and see if Blizzard took this huge insurance policy out against WCS.
Hold on. Since we got James on, we got Kennigit on here. So you guys were the ones pushing to be at GamesCon, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
So you're the reason why we're competing with.
So to preface it, ESL doesn't just do Starcraft at Gamescom. ESL actually runs a massive hall, and they do so there's a huge Starcraft stage. Riot has League of Legends stuff over here. There's booths over here that are run for other games and that. So, I mean, basically all of ESL goes into Gamescom for this period. And it ends up being 270,000 people that go through it over the course of the week. So it's really high volume traffic for, which is the reason IEM has been there for quite a while.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the motivation behind having Europe there, from our side at least.
Right. I mean, the only reason I brought it up is because I think a lot of the scheduling issues, and we can call this for whatever reason, either bad luck again, but a lot of this crazy scheduling that's been.
We call it idiotic.
Well, no, it's okay. So when I came here, the other half of my job is Dota, right? So I run WCS with David, who also works on IEM, and then the other side of my job is Dota. So I have 2 bosses. Carmack's my Starcraft boss, and then I have another guy, Uli, who's my Dota boss. And he came into me on my second day and was like, "Hey, do you want to go to the International?" And I was like, "Fuck yes, I do." He's like, "Okay, just go check your schedule and make sure you don't have any conflict." And then I checked my schedule and I saw that Season 2 of WCS was going to be there, and my face was, pretty happy. But if you... So what I did, of course, immediately was this is going to be fucking awful. How do I fix it? Because I was like, did nobody realize this? The same questions that everybody in the community had, I had 2 months ago when I saw this. And so I went to one of our vice presidents, and he was basically like, okay, solve it. And I sat with him, and I sat with the calendar, and I went and looked at every single event that was around it, our Gamescom, our ability to have equipment actually be in our studios at certain periods, because we ran LCS Tenerife, so we shipped a third of the equipment in the company there, and then we shipped the rest of it to China for IEM, and it takes a while for that to come back, right? And then you've got to manage the fact that there's Asus ROG, IEM, DreamHack Valencia, the fact that NASL is going to do World of Tanks on the 17th, I think, and it's impossible.
Why does the NASL World of Tanks affect this at all?
Because they couldn't
guys, right?
couldn't run their North American final the week after, and even if they did, so say they ran it on the 17th weekend, right? Say they qualified 2 of those Chinese guys and they won on the 18th or the 19th. Gamescom starts on the 22nd, so we basically have 3 days to fly them back to China, send them to a U.S. consulate and get a U.S. visa for them, and then fly them, or a German visa, and then fly them to Germany, which is just not possible. You need 2 or 3 weeks to get a visa. So that's impossible. And then so you just kind of work backwards, right? And really the only week it worked, for us at least, was this international week. And so my understanding up until sort of a few weeks ago was that it was just us. But then realizing what the other schedules were, it was like, oh, we're actually all going to be around this period.
Which is unfortunate.
Nobody likes it, right? Like there's no benefit. I mean, like there's no benefit from an ESL or NASL or Korea viewership to have it all that close, but like it's unfortunately is exactly what they said. Like the salty answer and the answer that everybody wants is that there was, Blizzard fucked up or Blizzard wanted to take on TI3. It's really just scheduling. Scheduling StarCraft 2 events around each other is a nightmare. Adding like 3 other games and 4 other companies, it's like a 5-dimensional matrix of.
Do you think the potential loss in audience for that thing is worth having it produced by what's going on at GamesCon?
What do you mean? We're not running WCS Europe at GamesCom.
Wait, so why is it coinciding with that?
No, you're running the season final.
The season final.
It's two events. So WCS Europe will be all next week, and it will coincide with when the international is broadcasting. But we're 9 hours ahead of Seattle.
Was it you guys at GamesCon or at Blizzard that said let's have it at GamesCon?
I think we propose, like we sent a proposal, right? So you know how each region has a final, and so when we looked at where the finals were going to, so if you look at where Korea was going to, the sort of dates that Korea wanted to have their final, and sort of we knew a guesstimate, say within like a 6 to 7 week period where we could have ours. It makes the most sense to have it at Gamescom for us, and then North America will do theirs somewhere.
So looking back at it, James, if you kind of knew how everything laid out, would the decision have been the same for you guys?
The decision was, it depends how far back you want to go, right? Like we're already talking with Blizzard right now about 2014 and about substantial changes that, like, from our side we would like to see, and then the Koreans have some input and the guys at NASL have some input, and that all kind of gets balanced around, and I think there will be a lot of changes next year on it. But
what I was getting at is the decision to have the season finals on that date. Is that date negotiable or not? Like the date of the season finals.
So I tried to move our semifinal and our round of 8 and semifinals, finals are played over 2 days, so Saturday and Sunday. I actually tried to move those back one day so that it would be on the Friday and the Saturday, and it would have meant that about 20 members of our ESL TV team, who are like the camera guys, lighting operators, would have worked like 17 days straight without a weekend. So
I think the thing, like, James, is honestly you just pointed out what was kind of important about this is that you're 9 hours ahead of Seattle. Right. You're the only guys who can get away with this. Yeah, you guys are fine.
And this is why I thought it was okay. Like I wrote off that. Okay, so say our broadcast goes to like 10 p.m. European time. So we'll probably hit like the lower bracket final or somewhere earlier on in the day of International 3 final. So I wasn't too worried about that part.
It's NA that's going to get shafted hard, let's be frank, especially considering they put it on exactly the same time zone. It's not in Eastern Standard anymore. It's actually on the West Coast. They're the guys that are going to get hit really hard. And what's so silly about the whole thing is that they obviously only got NASL involved relatively recently after MLG said we don't want to do this anymore. And they also knew that NASL's production guys were going to be doing World of Tanks as well, because that's pretty much what they ended up doing when they weren't able to do StarCraft. And then we ended up in this situation. And it's horrendous. It's horrible.
Yeah,
Cursed,
I think you'd probably have to talk to Bitter or Rotterdam about.
Did EG buy WCS? It's weird.
Say again?
EG buy WCS.
Just because of the curse.
Nice. Yes, I got it.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you can't blame NASL. I mean, they had prior contracts they have to obviously uphold.
Yeah, pretty much.
World of Tanks. So it's
It's what they ended up doing when they couldn't do their season 5.
Mm-hmm.
So can't blame them for that.
No, not at all.
It just sucks all around, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Well, at least now we have an actual person to make us the villain, because pretty much Kennigit just assumed the entire blame for
Yeah.
all of
I
this.
heard him
That's
say
good.
That was my hidden agenda of getting him on here.
Well, it's not really
Better planning than Blizzard, Chris.
yeah, the planning of it is not something that was like you basically, the way I think it kind of worked this week, at least with initial planning, was sort of figuring out those like working backwards from Gamescom, or excuse me, from BlizzCon, right? So we know where BlizzCon is going to be at the end of the year, where the World Final is going to be. Okay, now we work back from there. Where are the 3 Grand Slams? Okay, so now we need to have regional finals done a certain period before that to make sure we have players coming into those season finals. Okay, so now we have to have round of 16s done by a certain point, right? So you work backwards from there, and then you look at, okay, now we have like, I don't know, 15 other events from DreamHack, Aces Rock, blah, 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 MLG, and balance those in there, right? Because it's easy on paper. I just say, okay, Naniwa, you can't go to an event for the next 3 months while I run WCS, right? But realistically, that's not going to happen.
How does LCS do it then? Do you know?
LCS has a complete lockdown on the. There are no other Tier 1 League of Legends events. So it would basically be as if Blizzard came in and we ran all 3 regions of WCS, and there were no other events.
Now, they're giving like MLG and Blizzard WCS points to give out, right? Right. So, I mean, they're kind of getting, like, aiming towards that, potentially.
No, I think...
You don't think so?
You
want it to be individual?
I think the concept behind it isn't to have a lockdown that way. It's to have sort of like a global structure where you have where you also have independent tournaments that are included with it.
So that's kind of the flaw to giving.
I don't think it's a flaw. It's just, I mean.
Well, the way it ended out is not good, right? So,
well, Sheth, I mean, it turns out you can get people to do what you want if you decide to pay the salary for their entire damn team.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at the...
I bet Hitler Soldier said the same thing.
Like, we're always talking about sustainability in esports, right? And they're, like, Blizzard's, I think, goal overall is to, help foster an environment and an ecosystem where this thing can sustain itself, right? Through, ultimately through sponsorship and advertising, this sort of thing. The Riot model has been much different, right? Where they wanted to build a product from the ground up with like almost basically entirely their investment backing it, and then taking it sort of a much different route than the more open system.
Not just their investment. They generate a lot of money. They generate a lot of revenue through the game client itself.
That's a really important point, right? Because they can justify the huge amounts of money required because they just write it off as a marketing
expense. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. They can monetize after they sell the box, which is something that Blizzard said they were going to do like 3 years ago and have not got around to doing yet, and I think it's costing them quite a bit.
So that's a very big different point between LCS and WCS.
Yeah.
How much money do you think we could get for a tournament if they were to sell like fucking EG skins for Marines? It would be so sick. Or like an Axiom thing on my command center, like an Axiom skin, like your artist and
we suggested that shit to them years ago.
Dude,
all
I know is the TI3 is going to be funded by all the users for the most part with that compendium.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So it's like $3 million, man.
It's the only significant. Well, it's the number 1 event of the year.
Yeah,
right.
It's the Super Bowl.
I mean, it is.
It's 100 times bigger than the next closest event as far as importance, right? Like, I see Naniwa versus Stefano versus Innovation versus whoever, like, every 2.5 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist right now in Dota. Well, it does online, but not offline.
Not on a LAN, yeah. And thank God it doesn't exist in the LAN, because it would cost a fucking fortune. People keep asking me, when's Axiom Dota come? It's like, when I somehow get the funds to fly 5 people all over the world together. That's super expensive, and it's a good job that scene isn't more based on offline events, because it would be unsustainable if it was. The way we're kind of doing the Dota stuff right now is like EMS1 is very European heavy,
and then we do like a smaller North American one and fly a team over. But I mean, a 5-man Dota team with a manager, flights, hotel room from the US to Europe is I don't know, like 6,000 minimum, 7. You know, that's just and I mean, okay, so maybe the tournament then gives some sort of travel assistance, right? Which is what we try and do, but still the team is incurring like a pretty big cost there to do this. So it's not people. I find people always have this like cookie cutter when they don't have the details. They're just like, oh, it's this, right? Oh, it's shitty planning. Blizzard can't plan well. No, not really, because there's like probably like 50 different people involved in looking at all the planning and figuring it out. Or, you know, why don't people on EMS were complaining that we just didn't fly another team over it.
I think it's just disappointing seeing that Blizzard is a AAA, I think multi-billion-dollar company, Blizzard Activision.
Yeah.
To see them fall susceptible to scheduling issues is a little bit of a letdown.
My understanding of it, though, is that as much as they are a huge company,
eSports is very tiny.
eSports isn't, and Starcraft is, you know, this is my understanding of it. Starcraft is kind of viewed inside that company as kind of the odd child, the weird game.
I mean, you can outright say it. It's an absolute failure in terms of the amount of money that they generate through everything else. Like, I can understand.
Well,
that.
I mean, not after once they sold the boxes, absolutely. But you know, that was the traditional business model. You sell the box, you sell the expansion, and then you go on to making another game. And these days, games aren't built that way. They're patched for years and years and years, and they're continually now being built on a system where content is expected to be provided over the course of a number of years, and is also monetized in such a way. And StarCraft was never built that way. And that's really kind of strange, but when you think about when they started making it and their traditional model, it makes perfect sense. And the problem with StarCraft right now is that, Blizzard has a bunch of money, but StarCraft doesn't. StarCraft's team doesn't have that support. That team is working on Titan. That team is still working on World of Warcraft. It's working on porting Diablo 3 to PlayStation. That's what it's currently doing.
That's why I thought. That's why
if they had those resources, I think they could do that. I really, really do. And it makes me so sad because whenever I speak to the Blizzard guys, they're always so passionate about everything, and they're obviously trying, and they just don't. You know, passion isn't enough. I'm afraid.
That's
when you're doing stuff on this scale.
The most important thing, in my opinion, that StarCraft could have did to help itself was to figure out some way, somehow in the client, to sell something to the end user, so that they could justify a larger budget for the game. You know, if you could buy skins for your fucking champs, something stupid like that, the amount of money that they could generate doing that would justify hiring maybe 1 or 2 other people, I don't know however much money they make, to actually work on the game. I wish that they had, like, I know, like, everybody demonized microtransactions at one point in time, but they give so much more incentive for a company to follow a product after it's shipped that I feel like it would have been so much better for them as a whole. And it seems weird that even just not even looking at Activision Blizzard, even just looking at Blizzard, like, they found success with that model in World of Warcraft. Why haven't they been able to take what they've learned there and apply it to StarCraft, you know?
And
I mean, they started off with completely different games.
Exactly.
And Blizzard seems like because they're an old company, they're fairly slow to change and react. You know, they have a particular way of doing things, and for the longest time, Blizzard was on top in terms of MMOs and in terms of, you know, just
every
dominance.
genre.
Pretty much every
genre.
They had the best action RPG, the best RTS, the best MMO, and they don't anymore. And they're kind of scrambling to deal with that new position, I feel, and they're unfortunately not really able to react quickly enough. And you know, the esports scene in particular is changing so quickly. I don't think people could have expected League to come up as quickly as it did, and as just in such a massive scale. And even in the same genre, there's competition now, which is still beating it. You know, you've got 2 Dota-style games that are both beating StarCraft 2 in terms of numbers.
So I'm going to ask you the crazy question. You know, since we're talking about Blizzard and just how they seem to be allocating things, you know, some of the murmurings, of course, you know, is that Blizzard's setting all this esports stuff up for All-Stars more so than StarCraft.
Yes, that I've heard a lot about that. Tara actually mentioned this in chat. I completely forgot about it. That there's actually a lot of people in Blizz right now working on All Stars.
Mm-hmm.
That's frightening.
Yes. Yep, definitely.
To see a company that managed to fail. I don't know how old a lot of people are in the audience are, but what Totalbiscuit said earlier, like you have no idea. Like Diablo 2 was the hack and slash. Like,
yeah.
It was the
arguably it still is.
Yeah. Well, that speaks more to their failures than to their successes. You know, Starcraft and Warcraft were the Like, what are their RTSs? Command and Conquer. You know,
which has driven itself into the ground way harder than anything Blizzard's ever done.
It was the RTS. They had the hack and slash, and they had the MMORPG, and all three of those, even though WoW is still the biggest MMORPG, dude, it's bleeding subscribers so much, and obviously. You know, StarCraft 2 isn't exactly living up to what they wanted it to be, and Diablo 3 was... there are no words that exist in the English language to describe the massive failure and fuck-ups that have occurred there. So to see that company that managed to kind of fuck all three of their big brands up decide to jump on to Dota All-Stars, or their Blizzard All-Stars, that seems really frightening to me.
You know, I was kind of excited for All-Stars when it seemed to be like it was just going to be a custom map. It's like, hey, that's going to be some fun thing to play every now and again.
Yeah.
But, I mean, investing so much into it kind of worries me, I've got to say. Their other project, Hearthstone, was apparently developed by, like, a tiny team. And that actually has a decent amount of potential to be successful. But, I mean, banking it all on something like All-Stars,
Well, All-Stars was a tiny team for a long time.
It was, yeah. It was.
I don't know how big it is now, but I know it was...
A lot bigger than it was then.
Yeah, so I mean, but at a certain point, though, it was just, I think, just a few designers in their spare time basically prototyping. My understanding that... Yeah.
My understanding now, or not now, but at least 6 or 7 months ago, of the Blizzard guys that I talked to, though, was that the team working on Dota All-Stars is a team that's not working on StarCraft. Like, one of the reasons why StarCraft got so resource-starved is not only the fact that it's not making money, but that a lot of their new resources are being allocated towards working on that Dota All-Stars team, too.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to say without, like, any direct, like, inside
information.
But that matches up with what I've heard. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And
so, like, that's a little bit frustrating to hear as at least somebody who was once very heavily invested in the StarCraft community that, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have to also consider that, like, before when I was at Team Liquid, our first interaction with Blizzard on, like, an official level didn't happen until 2007, and the community team was one guy for all the games. Like, all the games, right?
That sounds
like,
matches my experience with WoW, actually.
Like, it was Karun, right? He was on Warcraft 3, and then he got switched over to StarCraft before they announced StarCraft 2, right? And there was no community program, there was no eSports program.
Was he the one who tried to make WCS happen?
I mean, StarCraft lasted all those years in the community in that with zero contact with Blizzard at all. So I don't think it's necessarily really concern of mine of, you know, if Blizzard stopped patching tomorrow, I think maps would kind of take care of balance. Well, you know, maybe not entirely, but, you know, maps would start to play a bigger role like they did in
Bird War.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got two maps on the. Hey, we got two maps on the ladder. Okay, from the.
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah. Always nice.
I always thought that was funny. What, like, the biggest solution to all the balance problems in StarCraft 2, if you follow the trend from maps in the beta to now, was to just make all of the maps absurdly large. If you look at the size of maps that we have now compared to what we had, like, early on, like, they've gotten a lot larger.
Yeah, they really have.
Pretty funny.
You know,
all right.
I think what kind of makes me sad about the whole WCS situation is that with our talking about, like, the Blizzard StarCraft team with a limited budget and limited resources, and honestly, I would have preferred them spend that money doing exactly what Destiny suggested in the first place, which is to enable some kind of microtransaction system, is to get some innovative features in there. Because the biggest thing I think about Dota 2, and the reason why it's being so damn successful, is because they seem to have an unlimited budget to come up with crazy shit all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, the Compendium is a bizarre idea that originally, if you look at it, it's like, this is stupid. And then rapidly becomes a massive success. And even the idea of running a game based purely on buying fucking hats
but
for Dota heroes.
You'll never get Valve to be, or you'll never get Blizzard to be like Valve, right? Like, I mean, I think we all know the stories of
Valve is unique
flat
in that
structure,
respect.
and I mean, I think
Yeah.
they have like 350 or 400 employees, and Blizzard is at like, I don't know, somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000. Now, a lot of those probably are on WoW Q&A and stuff.
Well, another thing to consider
Oh
too.
wow.
Another thing to consider
Yeah,
too is
no,
like
but
of all
listen,
the Valve employees, they're all like highly skilled employees too. Like they're not just.
Well, no, I mean, but with a company that big, you just things just slow down a bit, right?
Sure. But that excuse, unfortunately, that actually even ties back to the girl thing we were talking about earlier about girls in esports. Like that excuse, like of the public perception of you, like it might not be fair, but that's reality. Like if you can't keep up with something like Riot or Valve, it doesn't matter what excuses you have. Like nobody cares. Like nobody's gonna turn on like an esports event and go, well, I was gonna watch the better game, but this game, like the company's really big and it moves slow, so I'm really understanding. Like it doesn't work that way. Like Riot and Valve have moved at such a speed that the excuses don't really matter,
Yeah, and bear in mind there's a massive reputation for Blizzard.
Yeah.
The reason why we expect so much from Blizzard is because in the past they've proven that they can live up to that.
Yeah.
We have a really high opinion of that company.
They deserved it. I mean, they earned that, right?
Well, yeah, they did. They earned it in the past.
One point in time, yeah.
Did League of Legends come out before StarCraft 2 or after?
It was out before StarCraft.
Before. It was.
Okay, I forgot.
How about the betas? Do you know if the beta for LoL was out before the beta for StarCraft 2?
Yes, it was. They ran out a fairly lengthy beta for that game, if I recall correctly.
One of the things that I think I said a week or two ago is that bothered me about Blizzard taking on the whole esports thing too is that to us as a community, like esports is like the #1 kind of important thing almost. Like if you look at companies like MLG or what was IPL or NASL, like the tournaments are very fucking important to us as a community. Like arguably
absolutely.
they're the most important aspect of what the community rolls around, all the big stories, following players, the results. So to see something that we value as almost the #1 means of the most #1 important thing, move on to a company that views it as like the 50th most important thing, like I think that hurts a little bit,
Yeah,
well, I don't think that's really the case.
But it is. I mean, it doesn't. Sports doesn't make them any money. You can tell based on.
No, but there is value in it for them, right? There is value in
there is,
product.
but it's not their main.
Are you
channel.
sure? Like,
yeah,
like the way they've been running WCS.
I mean,
if they were to do a
I'd say that's
total,
negative.
if they were to evaluate their assets at the end of the year and determine whether or not they thought that their esports expenditure was like a revenue positive asset of all the money that they've invested in it, you think they've made enough?
Listen,
There's no revenue.
WCS is not a money-making
it's not a revenue
operation, and I doubt.
No, but I mean, like even as a loss leader for selling games, you like.
It's. I don't think. I'm not even
that.
sure if they would see it as something to just. I don't think they expect people to start watching WCS and then go buy StarCraft.
Well, I hope not, because they won't.
Right.
It's not presented in a way that would even appeal to those kind of people anyway.
So how are they making money off of it?
It's branding. It's marketing, branding.
I mean, it's the same
branding
as, like,
for what?
How does Barclays make money off, is it Premier League they sponsor, TB?
They used to, certainly. Like it kind of runs through the banks at this point and lager manufacturers, but
so it's a branding.
But the thing is, like, but I mean,
how
that's
does
raising.
Red Bull make money off training grounds, right? They don't, but there's a lot of energy surrounding that product that gets associated with the brand.
I see what you did there.
See what I did?
It's got wings.
Yeah, but Red Bull is awesome. Everybody likes to drink Red Bull. Like I think that's a much different comparison. Red Bull doesn't own StarCraft 2. They don't own.
Well, that and you can't repeatedly buy StarCraft 2. You can keep buying cans of Red Bull, and you can keep putting money into a Barclays account. The thing that we said earlier is this.
You might go play Hearthstone, right? Or you might play the Blizzard MOBA.
Maybe, but they release games so bloody slowly that it's of no use to anybody. Huh? By the time that they get around to releasing a game, we've forgotten about WCS.
From all the mistakes that I've seen in WCS, and from like the fact that they're not willing to put enough to make it like truly premier, or so that we can make all these comparisons and say, well, Dota's so much better, Valve's so much better, Riot's so much better. Like because of the WCS and a little bit of emphasis they've put on this, for me personally, it's the opposite effect than like, hey, I'll go look at Hearthstone. I'll go look at the next projects that Riot does or Valve does.
If you could change any major single aspect of or a few major aspects of WCS format or production or the way things are now within some sort of reasonable frame, what would it be?
Okay, so you might disagree with me here. I, honest to God, and it's hard even to say this because how much MLG is fucked up, but I feel like if MLG were to take on WCS or would have started with it, I don't know, with no Blizzard involvement at all, I feel like things would have went a little bit differently. I know that MLG is fucked up a bit in the past, but could you imagine if this announcement had been made, like how much Sundance would be getting crucified on Twitter right now, and all the talk shows talking shit like, Sundance is fucking killing esports, scheduled all 3 events of the TI3 or the IT3 or whatever, fuck. Like, I feel like there would be so much more accountability kind of there for MLG because their entire stake is in kind of doing the whole tournament thing. Whereas with Blizzard, like, Blizzard can launch a PR statement and then it's whatever, they're done with it, like, they don't have to worry about it, like.
So, wait, so I don't quite understand. So you would have MLG run WCS?
Sure. For Blizzard not to be involved at all.
I'm talking about reasonable, like, within some range of what you think is actually, like, practical for like, next year.
For me, I'd say give it
next year?
a storyline.
For next year, I wouldn't do it at all.
For next year, I would kill WCS completely and rebrand.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's what I personally do. I would rebrand.
I don't disagree with him.
I don't disagree with him either. I don't know about rebranding, but yeah.
Just rebrand that shit. That whole thing is toxified in the StarCraft 2 community.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, if Blizzard wants to throw money at esports, then just give some money to people that you trust and let them do whatever they want with it. Like, let them create, either fund their existing tournaments so they have a larger prize pool, let them use it to fly more players over so there's less strain on the teams, or let them create events that are a little bit more unique. Do we want a 2v2 tournament? Do we want something a little bit out of the ordinary so we have a bit more vibrance to the scene? Yeah, let them do those things. The WCS is not anything new. Around a 32 tournament with that format, it's a copy of the GSL format. This isn't anything new. There's just more of it. It's sheer volume. That's the problem, and it overrode everything else in the process.
Imagine if Blizzard had given like $15,000 or $20,000 to take. Like, what else could he have did with Home Story Cup? Or what about like to the Lone Star Clash people, like the school, like those kids? Imagine if Blizzard would have just given them some money. Like,
they put on an enjoyable. I mean, having sat in their production studio with a bunch of volunteers and borrowed gear, it's incredible what they did with that.
Yeah,
and it was a great tournament.
Kids are rumbling now, man. I think that's a sign that we're gonna have to wrap. So how about last points from each of you guys, and then we'll wrap. Any last points for about WCS? What? You guys just sat here talking for like 30, 40 minutes.
I want to hear how you would rebrand it, James, or what would you change to it?
I mean, I'm obviously, like, literally today I had meetings about it for an hour and a half at ESL.
All right, so confidential stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I just shouldn't talk at all until...
Oh, you want to learn the accidental?
You can just take our ideas, take
Destiny's
plan.
Wow, this is filtered as fuck.
Huh?
This is filtered as fuck.
Yeah, this is filtered. Sorry.
What'd I miss?
Oh, basically, James said that he's a giant pussy and he's too scared to talk about anything.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna have to wrap, man. I got barbarians at the door, man. That weren't supposed to be here.
You want to say goodnight, dude?
I know they want to say goodnight. That's why I have to go and do it. That's so. Yeah, why don't we do shoutouts and thank yous? This is Unfiltered, man. What can I say?
We'll do the shoutouts. You can go take care of your kids, okay? Go.
All right, why don't we start out with Tara? Tara, you want to do some shoutouts? Thank yous?
Why me? I've been like, shoutouts? I don't know. Yay. You guys are all awesome. Therefore, you should shout out things. Go for it.
Okay, I would like to shout out the wonderful people at Phoenix. I think that they're amazing people. I appreciate everything they've done in terms of personally sponsoring me. I really like their mouse. Didn't see that. I like their mouse pad, the Demora, and their keyboard's coming out soon. That's awesome. I'd like to thank all the wonderful people at Team Liquid, Hotbid, the Manifesto guy for doing a good job moderating, Kennigit, my ex-favorite Team Liquid member, all of the other guys that work at Team Liquid for doing the web development and everything. Rich is an amazing guy. He's doing a lot of good shit. I'd like to start shouting people out in the chat room. Gravity Woe, Sniper, Dr. They're all really good people too. Thanks to my fans, thanks to Tara's fans, thanks to Sheth's fans, thanks to ChanManV and Totalbiscuit's fans, everybody for tuning in and watching. And that's it.
Sheth, you want to use some shout outs?
Damn.
Sure. Shout out to Starcraft NA for running a really, really good WCS NA.
Okay, cool. TV, you want to do any?
Shout out to Sheth for shouting out to Starcraft NA. for only screwing up like half the tournament. I promise the next one won't suck as much.
There will be another one.
I've already talked about that. It's like when I get the money and when I'm not paying 15 grand a month for fucking flights, then, WCS is ruining me, man, I tell you. Anyway,
what if Blizzard gave money to Totalbiscuit for Shoutcraft? Damn.
Exactly.
Legit idea.
Yeah.
Paid for all of your flights.
Oh, that would be beautiful. Unfortunately, we're outside the region. We came to NA to steal money, and we found a really hard region that's harder than Europe. So there you go.
Don't come to Europe, please. I'm enjoying things the way they are right now. So
exactly.
There's only like 4 Koreans there. We could just send the entire team over to Europe. It would be pretty funny.
Yeah, WCS Axiom. Yeah.
That was the round of 8 for season 1 of NA, so I'll take it. Anyway, big shout out, of course, to the Axiom sponsors, SC2 Links, PlanetSide 2, myself, Husky, who doesn't really do anything, but he's on the t-shirt anyway, and WASDkeyboards.com. And a quick note that we will be launching Axiom branded WASD keyboards. You'll be able to buy the design of any of our 4 players, and you'll also be able to buy Axiom keycaps as well, and money from both goes directly to the team. And that's going to be coming out fairly soon, so just keep an eye on their website for that. And of course, you can check out axiomesports.com for all of the results, which mostly involve beating foreign teams into the floor. So, we'll keep doing that. Sounds like fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Kennigit, you want to finish off?
WCS Europe next week. There's not much else going on, so please tune in to every show, and North America and Korea as well. And August 23rd is GamesCon, WCS Season 2 final. So it's going to be really good. We're actually in the middle of planning and setting everything up right now, and my life is hell. And I'm working a lot of hours and days because there's 2 events back to back. But they're going to be really good, I think, and I hope. And if they're not, you can tell me and shit on me. So.
Well, your venue wasn't on fire, so that probably helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, seriously.
We haven't had to deal with any fires yet, so.
Can I give a shout out to the NASL team for the amount of arse-aching work they're going to have to actually do to get their studio ready for that stuff, because that's going to hurt. And
6 days, guys.
I feel really bad.
6 days in advance. I mean,
Jesus.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I know they'll pull it off because that's who they are, but holy shit, I feel for them.
All right, guys.
Are you going to the International? Any of you?
No, I'm not.
Where is it at again?
I was trying to, but yeah, because I live here. I really wanted to go, but I couldn't get a media pass or anything later.
If I went to the International, Crank would lynch me for not going to go watch their games, so I don't think I'd get away with that.
All right, let me round up the thank yous. Big shout out to all the guests today: TB, Tara, Kennigit, Kaitlyn, Sheth, and of course Destiny each and every week. Big shout out to my wife for for keeping the kids at bay until now. The show obviously ran way over, but I've been uploading the parts I've been uploading pieces of the VODs already, so hopefully you can check that out, youtube.com/ChanManV. You're gonna have to ignore the banging right now. And
ignore the banging.
Ignore the banging. I can't mute it now that I'm talking. But check out all those VODs there. If you enjoy the show or any of the other shows, Wednesday Night Sprites, Climbing the Ladder, appreciate it if you click the follow button here on the Twitch channel. And I think that's going to be about it. Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at ChanManV. Get all the show updates there. That's going to be it for this week, guys. So check us out on Unfiltered next week. Later.